I wanted a small coeducational liberal arts college. And I was aware of the Glass Bowl. I applied at Bates, Amherst, and Williams. I was accepted at Bates. I was not accepted at Amherst and Williams. Made Bates an easy choice. But I never regretted it. We were very predominantly first-generation college students. Very few students from prep schools. Now, when we were here, the total team had about 35 players. And Bates would have, I'm going to say, maybe close to a third of those players who had never played even high school football. So we had maybe about a third of the team who, it was great to have them as competition, during the practices and one thing or another, but they just couldn't hold their own competitively. And this was the beginning of two-way football. Bates did not have two-way football at that time. In fact, we had maybe 15 or 16 guys who played the whole game. Almost everybody played both ways, and early in the game we generally hold our own, but generally we'd get just worn down, and the other teams would pull away in the second half. We clearly identified with Bob Hatch. It was easy to do because he was young. You knew he was going to be there for a while. And he was very competent at what he did. We didn't have a terrific one-loss record, but he was a knowledgeable coach. Treated everybody fairly and honestly, and I couldn't say a bad thing about him. We had a game with Colby one year. We started off, and early in the game, we blocked a couple of their punts and scored touchdowns. And then we had got a field goal, and we were ahead 17-0, and we held on to beat them. That was a big game. And then there was another game, a fellow that we had by the name of Don Barrios. This was against Middlebury, and Don was the fullback at the time. Fullback at the weight of about 165 pounds, but just a strong competitive guy. And I can remember him carrying, I'll say it was probably 3 or 4 guys, carrying him about 5 yards, over the goal line. That was a big win. One year we opened up against Yale. On the trips we would play hearts. And I don't know how much money I won on the trip playing hearts, this particular occasion. But big money at the time would have been $10 or $15. And then we got to Yale for the Yale football game, and we were playing poker in Payne Whitney Gym. That's where they put us up as a dormitory. And I think I lost everything I won in about 3 hands. It's amazing some of the wonderful things you remember. One thing I'll never forget, the player was Walker Heap. He was the halfback at the time. He was carrying the ball, and I think that Bates was on probably its own 5-yard line or something like that. And somehow he weaved back and forth, and God made a 95-yard touchdown. Every time I'd see him at a back-to-Bates game, I'd say, "Oh, do you remember when?" The answer is he remembered when. Teamwork and I'll say stick-to-itivity. I have never been probably the Broadway lights type of person, but I was always able to get the job done. And there was always honest, fair, objective, persistent, and those are kind of the traits that have carried me through life, and are traits that I think are consistent with playing the game of football.